and this is where we stopped last time. And I said we are going to start with strings arrays, that is arrays that is looping through the strings. And we all know, I've explained to us what strings is all about and how do we loop through them. And I said that I'm going to make honore the variable that I'm going to assign to Farida. And then if you look at this, you see that if I want to find 0, like I said, when you're talking about indexing, this is lists which we are going to be treating next. But when you're talking about indexing means that the first letter here is 0, the next one is 1, the next one is 2, 3, 4, 5. So what it means is that if I say give me 0 here, it means I'm going to have here as H. And if I say give me 1, it means I'm going to have here as the O. Then give me N, it means that I'm going to have here, give me 2. 2, I'm going to have here as N. So what it means is that in index start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order. So if I say print Farida into index of 2, this is what I mean. But when I say give me 0 and this, what it means is that I'm going to give you from 0 to here. And if I say give me from 0 to 3, it means that give me from 0 to 3, removing except 3, which is the index of 3. That means 0, 1, 2. This 3 is supposed to be 0, but it means that give me from 0 to 3, but don't include 3. This is the meaning of what it means here. So I'm trying to look through this, and this is how I'm going to make it work. Now, if I say give me from 3, that means give me everything that's from 0 to 3, but don't include 3. So this same thing you see here, if I put 0 here and run it, it is the same thing as not putting 0 here and run the same thing, because I say give me from here to here. Now the same thing you can also do by engaging in this part, which we call, that is the negative. You are still referring to this, and this is the way you can loop through this. And if you leave it by default like this, it means give me everything. It is the same thing as you not putting anything here, so you will be able to loop through this string. So this is a way you can get it. Remember what I said, that the first character have to take the 0 positional index. So anytime you want to access a strings and you go it like this, whatever you write here, if I go is coming soon, for example, and then I type this and say give me everything, this is going to come out. And if I say give me from 1 to the end, that means I'm going to have array is coming soon. Then give me from 10, then what it means is that I am going to have from the position of 10 to the end, and that's exactly what I'm going to have. So this is a way you can look through the strings. And looping through the strings, this is the way you can access item inside the strings. So looping through the strings is still the same thing here, and I say for. Now I am trying to put a for using for loop. So I'm saying for x in, for all the item in Farida, print them. So it's going to print each of the item in that pattern. So it's going to access 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. So you can see the difference between what we did earlier and what we have now. So in that case, I am just going to say, for example, if I say here, so what do you think that is going to happen? It's going to happen because it's not going to access it. So if you want to access each of them, look through them, just know that you're going to say for all the item x. This x is not constant. You can make it c. It is not like it is x. You can make it c. Now look at when I put c here, for all the items c, print x. So if I replace this with c as well, you're going to have an array. So what it means is that this is not constant. You can change it with whatever you want. I can say give me for all the a in this particular thing, give me a, and I will run the same thing. It's just going to loop through this. So if I put is coming soon as well here, what is happening is going to loop through each of them, so it's going to be longer. So instead of it coming like this, because I'm using for loop, I'm going to loop through it in this particular pattern. Now at the same thing, we can know the length of each of the strings we have by using the keyword length. So what it means is that it counts from here. 1, remember in indexing it starts with 0, but when you're talking about length, it starts with 1. So H is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So what it means is that both the space between them are being counted. If I add another space, then and I run it, it means that I have added 2 spaces, going to increase to 16. So when you're checking for the length of an item or length of a strings, it count also adding the space in between them. And you use the keyword which is called length in order to access that particular the length of that strings. Now, if you have a word, so I'm going to copy this as well. So we're treating strings. So I'm going to bring this a bit. Okay. So I'm going to paste this and I'm going to edit the comment. And this one is to checking strings. So we're going to be checking the strings. How do you check strings? When you have declared a particular variable, like the way you can see here, then you can say to print is here because it is a keyword you are looking for. So I'm going to say print is if it is in the text. So I'm going to remove this and I'm also going to remove this. And remember, I've said this is Farida, and then I'm going to put in and I'm going to run here. So when I run it, this is going to fail because there's no space between them. So if I run it right now, you can see that this is false. Why? Because there is no is in Farida, because the is I have here started with capital letter, and if I run it, then it is going to be true. So what it means is that if you have a long thing that you write, it can be as long as it wants, and then you go ahead and then you can use this to find whether those things are inside there. Like I can put here, I can put Lydia, then I can put Balaka, I can put Leonsu, I can put anybody's name inside here. So how do you check them? The moment you call that particular letter and you find is, that means it's true. So if I want to check whether Lydia is there, even if it is a long word or how many it is, you can see that the true is there because Lydia is there. But if I want to check whether Chika is there, and if I run this, it is going to be false because there is no Chika that is inside here. So this is a way you can check whether there is a strings, there is a particular strings inside the variable that you declared. So in that pattern, this is the first way you can get that done, by checking, asking whether if it is existing. So that's the first way you can get it done. But another way you can still get it done is for you to now use if loop. So you can say if this is inside here, print that particular this thing is inside here. So now then you can see here, then you see here that it did not print anything because Chika is not there. So if I go ahead and then put Lydia there, and then I will run the same thing, it's going to print Chika is here because there is Lydia inside here. So in this way, I am using if statement to check whether that is there. So you remember, we are going to be using function formatting so that it will automatically pick for what you put here. But this is the way you can use if statement to check whether it is there or it is not there. At the same time, you can also use not. How do you use not? By checking them at the same time. So you can also use not. How do you use the not? Then when you declare this and when you wanted to check it, you can simply say here, instead of you putting it up like this, you can simply say that print this particular one, and you say that we should print Varida is not there. So you see here that when you run this, you see this is true because Chika is not in. So I'm using the keyword not in. Remember, here I use in here, and here I'm using not in. So because Chika is not here, Farida is not in this. That is true. So at the same time, if I change this into Lydia and then run the same thing, I'm going to have false here. Is Lydia here? Yes, is not there. This is false because Lydia is actually there. So Lydia is there, is not, because I'm saying not there, is saying it is false because Lydia is there. But if I say Chika, what is going to happen? It's going to say true because Chika is not actually in the variable that we declared that it is not there. The same way that we use this part, the same way we can also use if statement to do the same thing. How do you use if statement? We are still going to say that the same way that if at the same time we can still say Chika is not there. So this is a way you can also use the same way in working there. So you can see that, see, if Chika is not, so you see that Chika is not here because actually there is no Chika here. But if I say Lydia, because Lydia is there, what happens? I'm going to have this empty because actually there is Lydia that is actually there. So this is the way you can actually work on using a kind of using checking for strings in a particular variable that you have declared. Yeah. So in that pattern, you can also check what we called slicing. When you are talking about slicing, slicing is what I tried to explain earlier here. So in slicing, you slice through. This is what I mean by slicing here. But you slice through each of those items by using two positional. But remember what I said, anytime you put 10 or anytime you put something, let's say I put 11 here, whatever I put here means that add every other thing but not include that position. Remember that I said the index starts with 0, so you should know that whatever you are doing, don't include that. And when you start it with a number, let's say you see the way I put these things here from here, and I put this thing as 5, and then I put this thing, remove this one. What I mean is that add every other thing from 0 positional, but don't include 5. So in that way, what am I going to have? I'm going to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 supposed to be E, but don't include 5. So this is what we call slicing, and in that way you get that. And then if you want to slice to the end, it means that if you want to get everything to the end, so you still need to do the same thing. What it means is replace this one with where you want to start. So that means I'm going to have O to the end. If I run this, I'm going to have O to the end. So this is the way you can slice from the beginning to the end. And you can also do some things like negative slicing. How do you do, let's say, negative slicing? So you can do negative slicing by saying, let's say, -5, and then you are going to also put -3. So what it means, if you run this, it means start from this end and let's look for the S. Okay, let's make it -2 so that we can pick where exactly it is. Let's look at it here. So the -2 is so here. What is the -5 here? It started from -5 and so is where it stops. So let's make it -1 and then run it again. You can see here, and let's make it 0 here. And then when you run it, it means that there is nothing here. Let's make it let's make this thing 15, and then let's make this one -3, and then I'm going to run this, and you see here that it is going to be is coming soon. Now what happens? I started with the negative. You can see is coming as here. Now count it from the negative part and then remove into 3. This is 0, 1, 2. That is here in the negative part is counting up here. So that's why you have S here, taking the -3 part and then counting from here, which is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 here. The reason why 15 is that it is minusing it from 15, and then this is a way you can get a negative indexing. So whatever you put in here, and then if it is negative, so you're going to minus negative from it, from the total number you are counting. So if you are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is where 5 starts here from the negative part. Now give me the position of 3 from that entire -5. So where is 3? Which is 1 to 3, and that is why you're having only S here, because remember, don't add the one you are indexing from. So this is a way you can make an index when it comes to index. Now we move quickly to the modification of strings. So how do you modify strings? The same thing you do in Excel. Let me quickly explain what I mean by modification. You know, in Excel, you have something that looks like this. Let's say Balaka, let's say Lydia, let's say Chika, let's say Kingsley. Now you see all these things, and let me add it here, and then make insert on top, and then say name, and I say upper, and I say lower, and I say and I say lower, and I say here proper. Now you remember that in this particular way, where you have this, you need to put it in upper. You know that in Excel you are going to use this keyword and say I need upper here, and then you select Balaka and press enter. So automatically you get all these ones in upper. And if I need it in lowercase, I will still need to make lower, and then when I go to lower, I will select Balak and I will put it here. So all the rest of this is going to be in lower. And if I need it in proper, meaning that in this format it is here that I need it proper, so it means that if I have this one as lower and I want to put it in proper, or let me use this one, I can say here and say make it proper, and then I'm going to select here, let me use the lower so that it will be in proper format. So you can see here that automatically using this modification, the same thing here, but I have decided to use upper, lower and proper to make these changes on these strings, whatever it is. If there is a name here and people are putting capital letter and I want to change all of them to small letter, I can use any of these keywords. So in Python we use the same thing that way. So in that part, I'm going to still say Farida is still going to be Honore. Now, in this way, it means that if I want to access Farida, so I'm going to say print here, because what I'm going to do here is what we called modification of strings. So in modification of strings, so if I say here print Farida here, and then how do I call it? I just need to call it dot lower, for example, and then I'll put it like this. So in this case, if I run it, it is going to change Honore to lower. That means is not coming today. Now if you look at this, you see that this is going to put everything in lower. Even if I put this thing here in a capital letter and run the same thing, for the fact that I say give me that in lowercase, everything within here, it is going to be in lowercase. So this is exactly how you get it done here. So putting it here, if you also change it here and say upper, the moment anything you put there and put upper and run the case, that's going to change everything to upper. This is yeah, the problem here is here. So upper, and that's going to make it to be in upper. So everything here, whether it's in small letter or capital letter, it doesn't care. But the moment you call upper, that automatically give you in uppercase. Now here you run it again, you see now that there is a white space here. And how do you remove white space? You put strips. So the moment you put strips, that return it to a lower case. Like what I mean is that if I put this thing here and I run this thing, you can see the space between here. So in that way, in modification of strings, if I change this thing to strip, strip means strip off what that is empty, and that's going to return this here. So in this way, you look at it from here and not from here. So I'm going to return this one to normal here, and you see here that if I run this, this strips of what is here. Then if I did not put strips here, let me put a print again, print Farida. If I did not put this one here, and then I'm just going to run this like this. Sorry, it's supposed to go home. Now if I put it like this, you can see the difference between them. Now you see here that there is a strip in the first one, stripping off this space. There is no strips in the second one, not stripping off this space. So you can see this space between them. If you have a white spaces and then you want to strip them off at the beginning or at the end. Now this is what I mean at the beginning or at the end. If I return this here and I run this same thing again, so you can see that it strips off from the beginning and the end. So this is a way you can strip off white spaces at the beginning of a test or at the end of the test. And at the same time, we can also do what we call replacing. How do you replace a string? So for example, I say here that I still retain Farida, and then I still say that Farida is equals to Honora. Now in the same particular band, and I want to replace a particular letter with a letter, how do I do it? I want it to be Bonore, for example. So I need to say in this one I want to print, then I can say the same thing to replace this with this, O with A. So if I run the same thing, what am I going to have? I'm going to have Hanare. Now what do I replace? I replace it with A, and I can replace this same thing with a strings by saying replace it with Lydia. Then what happens? I'm going to have any place I have O, that's going to automatically replace it. Even if it is a long sentence, like I say here, let me say is not coming. Now what it means is that any place it sees O in this, and this is what it's going to have, because I've said wherever you see this, replace it with that. Now to not make it long, I'm going to put it in capital K. So I'm going to remove all the Lydia and put it in capital K, so that you see the effect. So you can see here HK here. Any place you have O, replace it automatically with K, and that's what you're going to have here. So you can replace any letter of your choice in terms of replacing. So at any point in time you want to replace, so you can replace it at any point in time. So this is a way you can do this particular one. Like I said, is what we call string replacing. So in this you can make a replacing a string. So you replace strings. So this is the way you can replace a strings. Now at any point in time, anything you have that is related to strings, so you can replace that with that. So remember, we're focusing on strings and how do you modify them, how do you replace them, and how do you slice through the string. So this is a way you can slice through a strings. So another thing which I will talk about a bit is as related to you splitting a string. So I'm going to be talking about splitting. So in splitting strings, let's say that we have this here, and I want to split where we have these spaces with split. So you can see now that I have all this and I want to split it with space. I will put this. So any place I have space, put it as a different item is not coming. Now I can also replace this one, the same thing that I want to replace. I want to split it with comma. Let's say that I say here, and I say go ahead and replace it with this, and I put comma, and I go in here and I put comma here and I will run it. What happens? Any place it have comma is where it's going to split it. Now look at this. If I want to replace it with O, any place it have will split it on O. That means I'm going to have honore, which is going to be H N O re is N T comes alone C O M, and this is what I'm going to have because I say split it at any place you have O. If you want to split it at space, leave the space in between this, and then that's going to split it there. And for example, that I have, I want to split it with E. I just need to put E here, and then I'm going to run it, and that's any place it sees E, and that's where it's going to split it. So generally, this is the way you can split strings by using split function. It's inbuilt function, and then calling where you want to split it. That's automatically going to split it at those particular places you do the splitting. So that's what you mean when you're talking about splitting. Splitting. So you split that, and that gives you any locations with what you want to split it with, and that's where it's going to split it for you. Okay. Also what we call concatenation. It is a function that is also in Excel. Concatenate. So concatenate here. A concatenate here is what joins several strings into one. So you have many strings differently and you want to join them as one. So you use concatenation to bring them together. So that is, remember, we're still talking about strings. So concatenation. So in concatenation, we bring different strings together, that is combining two strings using a plus operator. Now in that way, I'm going to still say Farida is equals to Honore. So I'm still going to go into that, and then I'm also going to say that Lydia is equals to Balaka. Now these are two different strings. Remember what I said last time, that when you say print here and you say print Farida plus Lydia, for example, here, and you run this, what happens is that you are going to have this here. So this is Farida. Then remember what I said last time, that when you bring these two things together and say print them, you are going to have that you cannot bring these things together. Yeah, because you cannot bring strings and then you are not going to bring these two things together. Farida. So these cannot work together because both of them are not the same thing. Like what I mean a bit is that you cannot bring, like I said last time, string and string cannot be joined together. But except it is string and string cannot work together, except it is an integer. So when you want to add both of them, that's not going to work. So you remember the same thing. But how do you concatenate strings? By bringing them together, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you now, how you can do them and bring them together. Alright, so you come to this, in this particular situation, when you have this and this, and you have this and this, so you have this, let's say that you have this one, and then you have L as Balak, and then in this way, how do you bring them, both of them together? For you to bring both of them together, like exactly what I did here, so you might need to come here and say that the next one should be Leon C will be equal to Farida plus Lydia. And then in this particular way now, you're only calling for us to print Leon C. Now in this way, Farida unexpected indentation. Yeah. So I'm going to select this and press Shift Tab to return it to the beginning. So you can see what I did here. In this case, you cannot concatenate strings together. What I mean by you cannot concatenate strings together is if you say A is equals to 5S and you say B, let me see, and then you say B is equal to and then you want to say A plus B, and then you run it. Now what happens here, you are going to bring these things together in this particular pattern because both of them are in this way. So you can see that you concatenate A plus B together. Now this is the way you can bring this one and one together. But if you have something like this and then you want to run this together, then you see now that type error, both of them cannot come together. So for you to concatenate, you need to have these two things defined as a strings, and both of them are going to come together. What if you want to make this thing have a spacing between them, like the way I did earlier? So let's say you have yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good, and I have a question on the above example.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, whereby you you use a plaint and you put Farida plus, and you make like that line you are working on, and it brings a syntax error. So why do we why is it possible for us to put in another variable? And it happened, but when we use like plaint, we put them like Farida plus Radia, and then it failed. Why is that?
I didn't like. Is it what I did here and what I
Uh-huh.
did here?
Yes.
Okay, this is a string. This is an integer. So I said earlier that these two things cannot work together. Bringing them like this is a type error. You can only concatenate strings, not integer to strings. So I've explained this earlier that strings goes with strings and integer goes with integer. Like for example, if you look here, if I put up here like 5, 6 again, and I click on this, it's going to be 12. But the moment I change this thing, let me cast these strings by putting this like this, and then I will run this. You're going to have that you can only concatenate this and this. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So strings work with strings and integer work with integer.
Okay, sir, what I am asking is that try to remove this line, the five line at this block code of concatenation.
I should remove here.
Yes, remove that variable flavor and try to print Valida plus leader without putting them into the level.
Okay, so you want me to put it is it like this?
Yes, this is what. Oh yeah, I got it.
Okay. So because both of them are strings, you can still, what I print here, you can still do it like this, if you say Farida and you say plus Lydia, you can still have the same thing, but the difference between them, you see here, Farida, no? Here, you see the difference between this and this is that you are using this to space it, and this one is going to merge together because you are trying to concatenate them, and I'm using this now to separate them. So that's the difference between both of them. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I get it.
Okay, so that's all about concatenation. So in concatenation, you need to use this way to concatenate. You need to use this way to concatenate strings and then bringing them together. Now, the next thing we will talk about is still the same way. If you want to give space to them, you use this way to give space to each of these things that you want to concatenate. So, and you remember what I said earlier, that if you bring these two things together, it is going to fail because you can only concatenate strings and strings. But we are going to be using what we call formatting. It's called strings formatting. And this is very, very important. Sorry, it's trying to reach out to someone. So this is very, very important because we are going to be talking about different aspect of this. We're going to be talking about strings formatting. We call it F strings. This is very, very important if you are a programmer or a developer. This is very, very important because you're going to be using this often. So it is called strings formatting. So we call it F strings. So what I mean is that if you look at this case here, what I have here as example here, you see that I say that once you bring these two things here and then run it, it's going to fail. Why? Because it is not of the same type. But if you bring using F strings, which is called formatting, then you can bring those things together. How do I say? Let me say in this part of strings, I'm going to say my name is Lydia. Now, and you see, and Lydia is 50 years old. And if you run both these things, you can see that this is not going to work. The reason is because strings and then integer cannot work. But when you use the F strings and say Lydia, for example, you can still use the F strings. How do you use F string? By using F like this, and you put this thing in here, which you can use single quote or double quote, and you can bring in that particular text in and it works. How do I mean? You can still say that Lydia there, as you have defined here, that you put up these things in here, and you say my age is. Now, for you to bring in these strings, you use the formatting, and then I define it as B. And if I say here that I should print A, and I will run this now, what happens here? It is going to bring in this. It's going to bring in this particular. Let me change it a bit. Let me put this one as B, and let me put this one as. This is here. Okay, first let us eliminate the first one. That is B, and let's make this one age. Now I'm going to say here, give me the B here. So what I'm saying is you have this here and you say print this and you are trying to format it, and let's run this, and you see now that this is a string and you are trying to call this one. So what you need to do is you are going to use the f strings, and then if you put up the f strings and put it in curly bracket like the way you see, and that's automatically going to bring that particular this thing for you. So if you come in here and say print this, and then you see that my name is Lydia and my age is age, so you can see this age here, and it says my age is age. So with this you are trying to cast in this particular format or form into it. So in that pattern, to explain this well for you to understand what I'm trying to say, is that when you have an integer, for example, you have an integer that looks like this, and let's say you have 56, and then you have another factor, let me just say factor here, and then in that factor you want to bring in using f strings. So just go ahead and type f, either using a small quote or big quote, it is okay. And you can say that, like, my name, for example, is Lydia and I am. When you get here, put this up here and call for that particular this thing that you cast in here, which is this factor here. So this particular age you put here, in that way you can go ahead and say give me the value of factor. So you remember I'm just using this as anything. So if you run this, what happens is that you are going to bring in this particular thing you have defined here into it. Now what do I do? This was able to concatenate to bring in the text into this particular here. So I can still make years old. Now what it means is that even after these things, I can still put something inside here. Now I'm going to tell you how we are going to put many factors of format, have a lot of many formatting inside here. But what I want you to know is that the moment you put up this kind of thing like this, and then the moment you put f strings here, f in the beginning, it will understand that you are trying to do formatting, and that's going to get this thing done for you, because you put formatting, it is going to understand that you are trying to format that, and that's going to come out for you. So in this case, like you see here, I go ahead. What you need to do when you are defining this, remember that you need to put this. The moment you put this thing here, f, and run this code, it will automatically understand that you are trying to put f. But when there is no f here, it is not going to understand that. So you see the difference between here. It is still reporting as age because there is no f, but this thing is still reporting as number because there is f. So the moment you declare a variable and then put f on it and then use formatting, it means you're trying to let it know that this is a format and this is f strings, and in f strings we use f in the front of the strings literal and then add a curly bracket as a placeholder of the variable or many other operations. So that automatically pick what is in that place. So what I mean is that let's say and I am living at KK, let's say 65. Now if you look at this, I will say here streets KK 65. Now but if you put a placeholder here, curly bracket again inside here, and say st, I'm going to put st here as a street. Now it means that if I run this, what will happen? It is going to fail because I did not define st. So if I come and say st is equals to 67 and I run this, that's going to work here. Hold on a bit. This is st is not defined. Okay, yeah, st is not actually defined. st name st is not defined. Age, okay, yeah, I need to work on it on positional. Yeah, so but what I'm trying to say here is that you need to put it up like this, and then the moment you put it up like this and you put this age that you call in here and you run it, you are going to have this thing coming in for you. So anytime you put f strings and you put in there, that particular way you can combine uh, you can combine uh, you can combine the integer and the strings. So this is a way you can get it done. And also remember, you can also modify the float. What I mean is that when you put the strings in there and you go ahead by saying something like this, and then you now say put it to me in two significant figure, and you run this particular code, what happens is that this is going to understand that what you mean is in two decimal places. So if I say make it to me in 7 decimal places, for example figure, you are going to have this one. So anything you put here and you cast it with dot this, that's automatically going to understand you want to put it in this float format. So this is a way you can cast or you can put this one into it, and that's also happen in mathematics operation as well. Like when you're doing a mathematics and you want to put it in strings, but what you want to put output is not, it's just like bringing a text and this together. So in that way you can still do the same thing. Let's say that your ticket is equal to my ticket is I'll put it in a placeholder, and I will now say that if you are coming from your house, you are going to pay 1,000, and then if you are going home, it's supposed to be 1,000 multiplied by 6 of you, and then that 6 of you supposed to be into 2 times. So if I want to know how much you people spend because you are 6 and it is 12, what do I need to do? And then I will need to say Rwanda RF, and then I'm going to put this thing here, closing up this. So let me, so Honore,
Yes, sir.
what is wrong with this code that I'm going to run? Why am I not getting
Okay.
the right results?
Okay, the reason why you are not getting the right result. Okay, I think you forget to put there F.
That's nice. So because that is what is going to make this an F strings, and then it will be able to make multiplication in between them, because without that you won't be able to have that. So the moment you put F strings, and that is when the multiplication can work. Is that okay? If not, if you did not put these F strings, it's going to print out the way you see it because it is now a strings. But once you format it, means you put F and then you run it, and that's going to give you any multiplication that is inside here. Like I said, remember that you guys are 6, and then if you want to multiply it by 2, you can still go ahead and do the same thing here, and that's going to give you the right answer. Why? Because and if you want to put it in 2 decimal places, remember what I did earlier. Here, so you can also make it in that particular formatting. But remember that anytime you are making a formatting, you need to put this escapes, you need to put this dictionary curly bracket sign, and that is going to work. Yeah. So all this is just like you getting to understand strings, because it's very, very important. And like I said, this might be looking a little bit crazy, but you keep on going on it. Go ahead.
Okay, so what if we have to modify our string, like we have like at a place we have to modify it as you try to do there and at the example of the edge and the street. Why is that fail?
Age and street. Okay, I'm coming to
And
that. I'm going to show you how we are going to put two positional formatting. Yeah, such that
okay, thank you.
I'm going to work on that. I'm going to put you like you can put two, two, three, four together, as many as you want in there. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that, the way you are going to put them in such a way that you can format twice, like not just only having that one in that place. So um you need to put like the way you're going to put two of them, and like the way I put here. So you need to declare two of them and put them in position. Both of them have to be in position, because this one need to know that I'm in position one, this one knows that I'm in position two, or I'm in position three. So I'm going to treat that with you such that we are not going to have this way I was trying to put up here and it failed. So in that way, I should be putting a format position one and another one in position two, and both of them knows that I'm age one, age two. I'm going to be talking about position one or position two, such that if I change the position, let me say I put position one here when it is position two, it will understand that I'm trying to talk about their position, and in that way, it will fit in the right place it ought to be. So I'm going to talk about that formatting, and you are going to understand it perfectly. Yeah, so that's what I call, like we call it positioning. Probably if you want me to jump through it, I can quickly jump through it, how you can put all of them in different position. So that you need to know that this is index 1, this is index 2 for it, and this is index 3 for it, in such that way you can work on it and know that this one's supposed to be here and this one's supposed to be here. So maybe we can jump through it, or we can start it when we get to the formatting, when we're going to treat them. So whichever way can work for me. Yeah, so that you need to know where the value is and where the value is not, and with that it knows that I am in value 1 or I'm in location 2, and it will be able to answer that particular iterate inside them without having to uh, mix it up the way it is mixing it up now. Yeah, I'm going to treat that with you anyway. Yeah, that's for putting them in their position. So if we are okay with that, so I'm going to talk about a bit of escape. Remember when I was telling you last time that if you say here Lydia is equal to, and you say here that you say Balaka is coming, but Ame is not coming. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying to do myself, but I don't know the the area where it is.
You're having a problem?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I'll be stopping so that you can share your screen. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, before you share your screen, what I'm trying to say is that I was telling us that if I want to highlight Ame only, and I'm putting this, if you run this particular code, you're going to have it fail because this is not correct. But in some cases, if you want to highlight Ame, like I said, you need to start with small quote and either small quote. I've said this before. This is going to highlight Ame in this particular pattern. Or you start with single quote and then the other one single quote, and then you put Ame in double quote. So when you put Ame in double quote, that is going to work. So this is what we call here can see now that there is no problem with this one. Yeah, so in using escape function, there are some times that you want to put something but it is not working. But the same thing I put here, I can still put a double quote like this, and still put a double quote like this, and it will work. Because if you return here and run this code, that's not going to work because there is invalid syntax. But when you are using escape function, the escape function is using this and also using this. And then when you put up this and you have these things to run and you are putting it up here, this is an escape function. Now when you are putting this is going to fail because the position is not correct. The same thing. So when you are putting escape function, you put it here and then you run this, and this is going to work for you. So this is exactly what I want to show you here. Even though I have double quote, but because of this backslash, we have escape key. There are different escape key that we are going to talk about. The first one is single escape key. This is the double one. If you put this like this is the double one here. So this is a double way of putting this one. So which you can see now that because I'm putting a double, we call it backslash. Because I'm putting a double, then that is not working for us. So how do you put a double when you're interested in putting up a double? So in that way, you need to stick it to making sure that it is in front of this one, and when you put it in front of it, so you are going to print it. So this is the way you insert a double. So in this way, you need to also to remove this, and you also need also to remove this, and you run it here, and then that's not going to give. So you are going to have a single here. So we call them backspace or backsplash. So in this way, backslash is what you need here. Then I'm just going to say few things which I'm going to talk about new line. Now the new line here is when you want to write something in new line. Like you see Balak is coming here, but I want to put Balak is coming in a separate line. So you need to put a backslash here and put n. When you run this, it's going to pick Balak is coming here. It knows that this n and black splash and then n is for new line. So any place you put this and put n, that takes you automatically to a new line. So and this is a way you can work on new line at any point in time. So you see, if you put up this up like this, and this is going to give you a new line. When you are looking at carrying a new line. Also we have also another character like r, which gives you this. So r, you can see here that Balak is coming and May is not coming because I put r here. This is a new line. This one r, which completely called carriage return. So it takes this off and only return what is here. So whatever that I have inside here, and this is written here, whatever, because it's carriage return, but and all these things are being disappeared. But if I put n here like new line and I run this particular code here, this is going to bring in everything here. So this is what we call escape characters. So this escape character helps you work on strings perfectly. Remember that we are going to be using this one majorly, the new line, because when we'll be developing different solution or code, we are going to be using this because as you see it is on a single line, but I can split it on a new line at any point in time that I want to split it. Is that okay? So before Balak share his screen, so I just want you to understand that this thing I said from the beginning, where I said you use upper, you go down to swap it to lowercase, you go down to is in, and then you'll be able to use that to deal with strings. So this is majorly what we can do on strings, and then from modification to modifying strings to slicing strings to concatenating strings to formatting strings and using a save function. So with this you should be able to use strings perfectly and well. So we'll be talking about different other things, like I've said about capitalize. You remember when I say print here, and then you need to put capitalize. Capitalize. So you remember that using this particular key, you should be able to make a capital letter. Like I said, lower, upper. And remember that in Excel, like I give you example in Excel, capitalize. Am I not writing it well? CAPITAL. Am I not writing it well? Let me. No, I made a mistake. So it's supposed to be Lydia. Sorry. It's supposed to be Lydia dot. I'm putting it at the end here, and then here. So you see here that I'm putting print Lydia dot capitalize here. So I'm trying to get the capital, this in the first letter in capital here, here, and then I will run this, and you see that this bala can still remain as a capital letter. So you need to know this. Converting a strings into lowercase, then you need to know that you need to use lower or case food. You can also return by using center, count, and rest of them. So these are different things you can use here. Here. Sorry, I wanted to type here. So you say here Lydia dot upper. So in this part, then this returns to you to upper. Then Lydia dot lower, and this return you to lower cases. And then Lydia dot capitalize. Here, this return you to Lydia in capitalize. This is case food. Also, this takes the case food here. Let me put this thing in B, and then return this to this. So you can see this force all the case, everything here, into returning them into case food, which is returning them into a simpler format like this. And like I said, the formatting we use them in the case where you need to make a format in a particular position. So you can use that way to format, to make your formatting. So this is exactly what I want you to understand, and then we'll be making progress. So I will be stopping here a bit to share, for you to share your screen. So go ahead.